yeah, for you guys, once this has been recorded, this is Geek Apocalypse and this is Steven.
Hello.
So, in fact, I've just listened to one of your podcasts and you're on about the gigs as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring it up because it sounds quite because what we've been discussing is quite interesting. It's actually before you actually brought it up to me on when we met the last time at Think Tank. When you brought it up, it's something that I've always considered because um, one of the things I've done in the past is because well, I'm still freelancing now, but when I was doing more radio content, I actually had access to a performance studio, so I was actually, trying to book gigs there quite regularly, and we did a couple of Edinburgh Fringe previews. That was what I first set up in regards to gigs, and I enjoyed the process, and it was quite a fun idea, and I thought with the format that I'm getting and with you bringing up the idea of we should sort of team up and come up with something, I thought it would be good, and the thing is about my podcast is the whole point of it is to be as honest as I can. So if there's something coming up news related, it is always beneficial to bring it up because whatever you usually say in regards to what you want to do, generates some sort of interest. So I just firmly believe in whatever I'm up to, and if there's a reason why a podcast has been delayed by a day because I try and do one every week, then I kind of say why. So that was the reason really.
Yeah, I've just been trying to do a review for the not The Last of Us. What's the film? World War Z. It's
Oh, okay.
basically the same as The Last of Us, and I've been trying to do something with that, and I just can't put down and I can't write. I'm not a writer. I'm a speaker, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's funny you say that because if in comparison to what the stuff that I do, like, 'cause I write like all the time, but to be honest, from my perspective, I would agree with you if you were if you compared that to me, because I generally don't think I'm not a natural writer. I think actually what happens is a bit like I always go back to sort of what Billy Connolly says about his comedy, that like if you wrote Billy Connolly's comedy down, you wouldn't like see where the jokes are coming from. So like, and it wouldn't really be as funny as him, obviously, with his great storytelling technique. Like, and that's the reason why I think he's a genius in that regard. But if you actually wrote down his jokes, I think you'd struggle to actually see where the joke is coming from, because it's a verbal, it's verbally transmitted, his humor. And I think when I ever write something, I think I have that same problem in the process that I can. It's funny because when I write stuff down, I I kind of picture myself saying it, and I think that's the only way I can actually motivate myself to write something, is I have to like kind of convey myself actually saying it out loud to people in order to write something meaningful down. Because if I actually just sit down and try and write without sort of thinking that way, I find it difficult, and I think it's just because I'm not a natural writer.
mm,
So like, I think you can, I think you can. I think you just need to have a talent in something, and then in relation to writing, and then transfer it. And I mean, and I firmly believe if you've got a passion for something, you can overcome something like that.
yeah.
It's just putting the work in.
I've
But I
got
agree with
a
you.
mate that I went to actually see it with. And we're like a group of people, my girlfriend's college mates and that. And we were talking about the Last of Us and how it's so much like that film. I was seeing if it could come over on Wednesday to go over that,
Yeah.
and and possibly even do a couple of game things. Because I'm looking at doing sort of game reviews and gameplays, walkthroughs, permadeaths and stuff like that. Just something I'm using.
Uh-huh.
Except I need a sort of better computer, so I'm looking into that, and I'm looking into getting a recorder thing for the Xbox and stuff. I can record on Mac, but obviously the games aren't for Mac, that are for PC sort of thing, and Xbox.
Yeah, yeah.
So I need to get like another recorder. Other than that,
Yeah,
I
we're
can
looking
record
into that.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
Minecraft. That's all I can record.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or online games.
That's
That's the two
probably
things.
why. That's probably the reason why there's about like 150 million like Minecraft videos on YouTube
Yeah.
because literally everyone can. So no, I'm with you on that. It's funny. It's interesting because for the Geek Apocalypse stuff, we're looking into doing video reviews and all that kind of thing, and I'm looking into ways of doing it. And yeah, it seems to only be that you have to buy a specific software in order to record like sort of sort of internally on your like PlayStation console or whatever.
Yeah.
You buy a
I was looking
specific.
at a
I can't remember
couple.
the name of it, but
I was in Maplands and there was like three different ones. I think one recorded in 1080i and the other two recorded in 1080p, and there doesn't seem to be any difference between them. But there was like a massive price difference.
it'll probably just be like usual, like the old joke about BMW, like when you see a BMW logo and a pile of poo and like with the slogan, people will buy anything with a label on.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, it is really ultimately because I've seen plenty of examples where you can find something, especially if it's something like if it's custom built or an independent. The great advantage independent makers have over the general sort of mainstream companies is that in order for their stuff to sell, they have to make it a worthwhile investment, and they have to actually make the item good. Whereas if you become a successful company, you make a rather sort of general the easier parts are put in, and they try and
Yeah.
sneakily put something in that'll if we're talking specifically about computers, they'll max out they'll max out the graphics card, but then the memory can't handle the potential of the graphics card, so that's usually what they do. Or they'll like have a very small storage capacity, and then you'll not be able to play
Something
it.
good and something
So,
bad. It's like just to sell, like a selling point in a way.
yeah. Whereas independent ones, and there's a lot of ones in America that actually make quite a lot of money, is because they custom built to your specification, and they'll actually give you they'll pretty much build it to spec and just literally tell you what it costs. And so
Yeah. That's actually what I'm looking at doing. Is a guy I follow on YouTube. I was just watching his videos before.
Mhm.
He bought a new computer and that, called it Sasha, and it put a link to where he got it from. And
Yeah.
strange enough, he's like, what I found amusing. My girlfriend thinks I fanboy kind of thing, but he's like based in sort of London area.
Yeah.
But where he got it from is literally like 5 minutes into the Team Valley, which I was quite surprised about. So I called them up and I sort of went in and got a decent sort of spec PC. But the things I was looking at, and I'm thinking, if I want to sort of make this last, I'm just going to have to say, right, that's better than that. I'm going to go for that, and then obviously get something better. My monitor's out of date. My computer's out of date. I can't even use Fraps. It just does something dodgy. Fraps won't work. It'll record sound. It just won't record the video. So that's out the window. My PC's out the window, as well as the monitor. My TV's too low res, so that's a new monitor I've got to get with that system as well.
Mhm.
So it was. I was looking at just buying a graphics card for my PC, but when I spoke to the guy, it was just like a case of it's too old. It's like it's not going to cope with anything. So it's basically
Yeah,
just a brand new computer.
the motherboard will probably won't handle it if it's an older machine. So
So I was looking at, it was hitting about 600, 700, but now looking at the specs that I really want, and the monitor, I'm getting a like 27-inch monitor to match my Mac.
nice.
I was looking at 29, but I'll see.
Yeah, I've got a pretty
like
I've got a
12, 1300.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the one I'm currently recording on this device now is a pretty expensive laptop for the reason you just saying it is that I needed to multitask with everything. So and my I can't remember how big my screen is, but it's not far off what you're getting at. So
Yeah.
and the reason for that is because essentially I have one thing on one side and one thing on another, so I can multitask
Yeah.
while
That's
I'm
what I'm
working.
trying to do, but I mean, literally, I have like Oh, you can't even see.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at like clearing the back wall, which you can't see, but the guys will, or you will be once this is uploaded. But
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
me, I'm trying to. That's all like photography stuff, and I've got a drum kit there, and I've got music stuff, and I've got bags, and I've got tech and everywhere. I've got no space, so what I'm planning on doing is maybe it's difficult because all the power is like down the right side of my computer here. But I need a bigger desk. I need something like twice the size to fit 2 monitors on and stuff like that to
Mm.
multitask. Because my laptop won't fit on properly, otherwise it blocks the sound. My PC is down on the floor, linked up to my TV at the minute because I prefer it on the TV.
Yeah.
And that's lower res than my monitor, but my monitor's like that horrible 4x3, and it's just So I'm looking at getting like a system behind us, bigger table, stick my Mac on, stick my PC on, my laptop, speakers. I might even use my PA speakers if it comes to anything.
Okay. Cool.
Move my music stuff out. I don't really use it much.
Hmm.
And then hopefully have something. No. No go. My Mac seems to be doing some funny thing. But yeah. And then as far as the gigs, what I really want to try and do is obviously I've got to write a letter into the Howden Club,
Yep.
but I can't really see them unless they're being sort of snobby and dickish about it. It's going to benefit them because they're going to have a lot more people in on the Wednesday or Thursday than they would ever. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And
Well, really, if you want to, if you, from my experience, being involved in gigs before and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the advantage is as well that my dad's a member, so
oh, brilliant.
which helps. So he may be able to look into it for us if there's an issue. But I'm with you. I mean, especially if I mean. Pubs are in general over the moon when you offer them something that isn't the main days of the week. So if you've got, because most likely, especially with Howden Club, that I think, I mean,
Saturdays.
if any Howden Club lawyers are listening, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's something like, they had a six-figure renovation because not too long ago, and because my dad told me, because as I say, I think my dad's been a member for years and years and years because he used to live in Howden. It's had a massively. It was a good pub to start with, but it's it had a huge renovation.
I think what they did was I'm not sure if they did anything upstairs, but I know they did the downstairs because they've got rid of like a double entrance.
Yeah.
They got rid of it and now they've put it back for the smokers and stuff like that. So that was a bit backwards, but
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. But yeah, apparently there's like a floor. I think my dad was telling me the last time I seen him that they have like the floor with all the sort of stagey stuff is like a floor dedicated to that. So it's actually like right next to it,
yeah,
which
they
is
did
good.
the floor, and basically, I think it was Jimmy that was there. He wasn't there because of numerous things that went wrong. I won't get into it, or whatever happened. But it was like a case of brand new floor, right? No one put speakers on the floor. Not soon after, everyone forgets about it and just goes, there you go, and drag it along the floor and knock it, and
Yeah.
So, but yeah, main bands. I mean, you said they had bands interested. How many is that roughly?
Oh, about well, I mean, as I said to you, I could easily get bands. It all depends. It all depends roughly what structure you want to do it. But yeah, in terms of bands, I've just literally said, oh, I'm thinking of doing gigs, and they're like, yeah, no problem. I had at least 3 or 4 already. But it all depends. It all depends. But I haven't like sent an email out saying to like everybody I know, because we need to, like, as I said to you a few emails, that it all depends. It all depends when we do it and what structure it is, because realistically, the problem is, and the problem I suppose both would to a certain extent need to figure out, is how you're gonna logistically do the gig, because if you decide to if we decide to do it in a structure where we pay people to come in, which I'm assuming will be happening, and then we'll be paying everybody that goes to the gig, you will, like, as in the people who are making it, then you're gonna probably, well, most likely have to pay the bands as well. Because if the bands find out that you're being paid for it, you're thinning out the amount of people that will pay for free. The only real way you can get bands to play for free is if the gigs is free, or that you're basically just paying admin. You're paying like the cost of what the people are coming in just to get the room, as opposed to making a profit. So it all depends what you want to do. I mean, you can get bands. I don't know. You could get there's a few ways you can do it. I mean, for example, you could most likely you can get like a real up and coming band who just want the experience. Who'll like do the couple, maybe the first couple of opening acts will do it for free, because they'll just want the gig time. But then if you're reaching the point where you're getting someone who is quite an experienced performer, and they know that you're charging whatever amount for ticket prices, because we don't know, then if they know that we're all making money out of this, because anyone with half a sense will know if you times the amount of people that are there times by the admin, and most likely if you can guarantee, like, I know you were talking to me about doing tickets, which I think is a good idea, because if you do a ticket system where you start where tickets are available before the gig starts, and we can then go to Howden Club, or if it's not Howden Club, whoever we decide to do it with, then the problem is that the advantage is, sorry, that, like, if you sell, say there was or for example, I don't know how much Howden Club holds, but say it was 100-seater venue. If you go to them and say, we've already sold half the tickets before the night's even started, then more than likely what a pub will usually do, I'm not saying all pubs do this, but a significant amount would do, especially with that amount, would turn around and go, well, you've guaranteed half the attendance, we'll waive the room hire charge. And the reason they'll do that is because they'll know, because of having 50 people there and people being around for 3.5 hours or whatever, that they'll get their money back just by the amount of drink that people will buy.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is, if that's the scenario where you've got already before the gigs made it to the night a successful night, then you know that there'll be people that'll know on that scenario that you're not charging the room. Once that, if that does happen, then any money that's made will then be, available to be given to other people. So that's why there's a decision that needs to be made in how it's done, because you ultimately really you either get everybody to commit to doing it for free and then see how it goes, or you try and realistically figure out how many people are going to go, which is why if you do it the ticket way, you can kind of figure out roughly how much you're going to make in that regard. So it just all depends how people want to do it. So that was what I meant by, in terms of what bands would be interested. It all depends what gig we actually put on, because they'll want to know. But it all depends. I'll say I know loads of bands. I know bands who are like sort of up and coming, who just love the opportunity to actually be on a decent stage with a decent crowd. So
that's one of the things that we were sort of aiming for. Bands that are good, but haven't sort of yet
hit the heights,
surpassed like that certain point, but they're looking for something,
Yeah.
Which is where obviously the photography and the advertisement and media stuff all sort of came into it. So
I think you could. I mean, as I say, I'm not saying it's not possible to get people to pay for free, because people will want the opportunity to do that. I'm just saying that you're most likely the amount of bands that are going to be involved is going to be, you know, that they can ask will just get thinner. I'm just saying that the amount of people you can ask gets slightly thinner. I'm not saying it isn't possible. I'm just saying it makes it just a little bit harder, but it's not a problem. It's just a case of figuring out what we say to people and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was saying, I'm trying to remember what it was. I had a thought about. Oh yeah, that was what I was saying though. In regards to finish my point on what I was saying earlier in regards to the Howden, like to pubs in general, we were saying about, you know, whether Howden Club would say no or not. The thing is as you were sort of hinting at, if we did it on a night where it's not a mainstream night such as Friday or Saturday, then the pub would in general just be really, really happy to get to have something, you know, really decent on that they wouldn't have on normally, because if the room's available and obviously we're filling it, then they need somebody to fill it in a sense, so that they win on multiple levels because they get something extra that wasn't actually booked into the night, and then they've got a really decent gig on during the week that will make so that, you know, it's a bonus for the pub because they have a room that needs to be filled. So that's why I don't see it being much of a problem. And as I was saying to you the last time I spoke to you, that I think. That was why I agreed with you, is that I don't think there's enough. I get bands coming up to me all the time saying there's not enough nights like this, because a lot of the time when people start, so I get what you're saying in regards to bands who don't get the opportunity to be on stage. I totally agree with you, because a lot of the time you just get, and I think there's an issue you could say about this, not just for music, but just in general. There's not enough sort of, for want of a better phrase, middle of the road gigs, as in people who have done like open mic spots and have been on stage, maybe been at a school or whatever, and played in front of like 50 people, but then not going up, but not like going up the next level, is what you were saying.
I've been to one of them actually. I've been to kind of few open mic nights, but there's people there. Yeah, some of them have like made it and got awards and stuff like that, but a lot of other people like that are kind of doing it for free. You do have the select ones where they are trying to do something, but they're doing it for it's in effect a bit like photography. Like I was talking to, what's his name? I'm sure I got his name. Was it Tony?
Oh, Tony Bengtson, who was just on the podcast. Yeah.
I was talking to him, and he agreed with me. It's the same as like photography. You do stuff for free, people go, oh yeah, can you do this, you know, but it won't charge, it'll get you work and all, blah blah. It's a lot of crap. It really is a lot of bull. It's like, oh, you help me
because people are then
later, and it's like, no, you help me now, and then I'll help you. I don't know. It's, they try and do
I said that to you,
whereas instead of the other way around. I've had it a lot of times, and a lot of times it's just total BS. Because
people are it is much easier to deal with someone who is willing to do something for free, because you don't have to there is no, if you think about it, there's no real, you're not setting yourself a guideline. And I tell this to people all the time. My freelance, I'm a freelance youth worker, and I've just been offered a contract to do some work over the summer. And me and a friend of mine were basically got asked to send an invoice of how much we think it would cost in order to hire us. Now I think this is a really good example. This is why I'm happy to share it. Is that we sent what we thought what we should be getting. And and what we thought, we were like, literally, this is how much it's going to cost. We're not going to deviate from this number. This is how much it's going to cost in order for us to do what you're asking us to do. And it was fair. We weren't by any means overstating what we were worth. But we were like, this is how much it's going to be. So a sort of like, didn't say it in a sort of forceful manner. It was literally just like, this is how much it's cost. You want to hire us, fine. If you don't, you don't. And they said yes. I mean, because there was a delay of about 10 days before we got an answer, and we were like, oh, maybe we've overegged it. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because I was going to say, like, I remember saying that to you at the gig in regards to your photography, and I'm just saying, if you've got something, if you do something that you're good at, and you're clearly, I've seen the photos you did with the music video, so you're clearly good at being a photographer. And I was just saying to you, because I am quite happy to say what you were saying about your situation is I went through stages of doing stuff free. And I did, but ultimately the reason I did that was because, you know, it sounds silly to say, but it was literally what you were saying, as in I wasn't getting any work, so I was just saying free. I was just saying, yeah, I'll do that, because I kept saying, you know, I wanted the experience.
Yeah,
But I did that
thing to use at a later date, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I did that for like a year after, roughly about a year after university, where I was unemployed literally for a year, other than the couple of freelancing jobs where I got to work. I worked for, I did a couple of jobs for North Tyneside Council, as a freelancer, and then I worked for I don't know whether that was in the first year, but I then worked for BBC, for young musicians, which was a thing at the stage on BBC Two, and I was part of the production team for that. And the irony was, is when I left university, is I spent like 6 months trying to get a job at the BBC, which I was very close to getting. That was my main sort of career path, for want of a better phrase. So once that kind of they then told me I wasn't getting it, then I was like, well, what do I do? And as I say, I volunteered at a couple of charities, and I was basically just doing free sort of work, trying to get more practical experience. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I honestly think, looking back at it, and I'm happy to say this now, is I think I did it too long, because you kind of get into a mindset of, oh, well, it's good for me, when like I reached the point where I'd learned everything I needed to learn.
Yeah.
And I was still,
I feel like that. I've hit like a point where, obviously, I don't know everything, and even one of the probably northeast's well-known photographers, he says, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
You know, he's been all over the world photographing numerous things. You know, and he's saying he's still learning. And I've had. You can look at it 2 points of view for like photography, and you're either too expensive or you're too cheap, sort of thing. And a lot, I mean, I've seen stuff that's ridiculous prices, like £900 or odd or more for like a CD package, which I offer for like £250. Whether that's gonna have to go up or not, but I've had people say that, like, back whenever the hell it was now, it was like 120 quid, because someone else was doing it for £120 as well. And I thought, well, how the hell are you supposed to beat that? So you sort of do the same thing, but it was like, I think it was probably going to be a better case and CD than what they were offering. And this bride to be sort of was like, it's too much. It's like, oh god, like I said, I'm just glad it wasn't like over FaceTime or like video call kind of thing, because the shock on my face was just like, how is 120 for wedding photos too expensive? You know, and she was like, oh well, I can afford like 60, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you said that, because, and this is something, as I was saying, as I sort of hitting at earlier, this is something that I've been debating with the people I work with quite regularly, and it's an interesting topic, because my reaction to that is, as I was hitting on in regards to the stuff that I do, is you kind of should figure out, based on the experiences you have and like how old you are and how long you've been in it, as a sort of, and find the best stuff I got in relation to basically what I should be charging for my basically skill set, is like, look at the national average of whatever it is that you're doing as a freelancer. So I would go on like I would go on like the freelance rates for like the government, and they would do a national average, or like they would basically have done a survey and asked all these people, and then figured out roughly the average of what you should be asking for. And it's a nice. It's not. I don't believe it's true, because a lot of it is all depend, because that my first reaction to that is it doesn't take into account what area of the country that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're a freelancer in London, by the fact it's more expensive there and it's the capital, you're probably going to charge maybe even twice what someone here would charge. That's just logistically,
This is the strange thing, because I know two photographers. One's based in Wallsend, I saw him the other day, and one's based literally like 2 minutes along the road, like in a car, probably 5 minutes walk. And obviously he gets work. He's well known. I don't know how old he's. I'm not going to insult his age because I don't know how old he is. So I'm not going to say or guess. But I mean, he only uses like for the work he does. I mean, he doesn't shoot the way I shoot, but it seems to work for him. And I just couldn't shoot the way he, or use his workflow, and vice versa. He can't use mine. But I mean, he uses one camera, one lens, one flash, and literally together, like stuck together, not literally, but like all, like lens is always on, flash is always on, and that's all he uses. And for what he gets, it's, you know, some things I don't agree with, some I do, because a few photographers I speak to now, I even asked one when I took over a photography class thing, which was like on a voluntary basis, which I had to stop because I was losing money, I wasn't getting enough. And the guy there and a photographer that was based in, what was it called? There's a place in South Shields, the Cave, called the Cave. He's done weddings and stuff like that. And every time I go to like a photographer and say, look, can you like teach me this thing or whatever, they go, you know more than me. It's like, right, so basically I'm better off teaching you. It's like it doesn't make any sense. And like so a few photographers I know use either, you know, the P for professional mode on their camera, or basically, and I quote, I'm not saying who from, but if my camera had full automatic, which he in a way is, I'd use it. So if my camera was fully automatic, if my camera had a fully automatic mode, I would use it. I'm like, I don't understand this. It's like, it's when you've got lenses that you use for isolating the subject, obviously you blur out the background, and you probably know they don't really use that to effect. They just go, snap. Yeah, we'll go. And I'm like, yeah, it makes me cringe. I'm like, you've got all this expensive gear, and in fact, it was like one of the guys that was at that gig the other week.
Yeah.
I was like, I said, I had just pulled up my camera and went, I've got a Tokina 11-16, which was on. He's like, what? What's that? I'm like, what? He's got like a 5D Mark II, a 5D Mark III, a $1,500, 51.2 studio lights and all this, and I'm like, but he's obviously making something from it. He might not like understand everything about everything, but he gets the job done, sort of thing. You've got two sides of it. You've got the creative people that know how to use the gear, and then you've got the people who just get on with it and make money from going snippy snap.
Yeah.
Times.
Well, I have a few reactions to that. Like I get totally what you're saying. I think there's the truth is that there isn't really a right or wrong way of doing things. And I can paraphrase that to what I'm doing, because there was a few things you said that were interesting, like in regards to when you were saying to someone, My first reaction when you said you went to see someone who said, "Can you learn something?" and they know more than you. I've seen plenty of examples in that during the people that I know and the people that I've been around, where there is an element of truth in that, especially in regards to technology-based things. To give you an example, a friend of mine who did the Geek Apocalypse website, he was telling me a story once where in one of his old jobs, he got asked to go to the guy who was doing the website of the company he was working for. Actually said to them, "Oh, we've got this great webmaster. He doesn't live far from here, so we want you to kind of go and learn the ropes, just in because I think the guy was retiring or he was thinking about it. So they said, we want you to take over." Like at least know what he does. So then if there is the opportunity to take over, you can follow on. Yeah. So he goes over to the guy's house, and for those that don't know anything about website design, I'm happy to say I don't know anything of any great success.
Very little.
But I am aware, based on what my web designers showed me, that it's essentially to do with coding. You learn how to code to manipulate what you want the screen to do. And coding and that variety has been around forever. So that's
now,
but this is the point. It actually it either never used to be like that, or there was just a small amount of it around in website design, and it's now being changed to different formats. And the advantage you have, is that people become sort of, don't just become as skilled because they don't like move on to the new way of doing it. So he goes to this guy's house, and the guy's like, and he goes, "Right, I've been sent here to learn what you do." And he said by the end of the session, he was actually teaching him how to do his job better. And this guy was, as I said, he was close to retirement age. So my friend's roughly my age, 25. So he was roughly about 40 years older than them, and he was being taught by a 25-year-old how to do his job better. And I know plenty of examples of that. But I just wanted to say in regards to, it's funny, a lot of people have the mindset of expensive is better. And I'm not, and in some cases they are.
It wears out, sort of thing. It depends,
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the.
You could give a monkey a 10 grand camera, but not know how to use it. You could give a professional guy a camera phone and make art out of it, sort of thing.
Yeah, because then it does. Because what I would say is a really important factor in regards to that is I think talent, as your point now, is talent. Talent dictates what comes out of it. It doesn't necessarily in regards to what the expensive thing. And I think the best example of that is TV. You can put like millions and millions of pounds into a budget and make a series that looks immaculate and brilliant and all that kind of thing. But if it's not made right, then nobody watches it and it gets cancelled. Yeah, you can get a series that has no money at all, no budget. I mean, look at this is why I think web series are becoming popular, because the writing's so good, but actually what the stuff that they're making is essentially the reason why it's not as good quality is just simply because the budgets aren't as big. But if they did have the budget to do something better, they would do it better in relation to what it is that they're writing. Whereas I think that another example of that is the film industry at this moment in time. I wrote a thing about Iron Man 3 that I know that I had a lot of people divided about, where I said I didn't like Iron Man 3, and the reason because of that is because I thought they were leaning too far into the sort of special effects. Let's see things blow up. Like I'd seen Fast and the Furious 6 the week before, and I kind of got dragged. I got dragged to see that because I hadn't even seen the last two, and then I got told before I think the last one I seen was the second, whatever one was before Tokyo Drift. I never seen Tokyo Drift. But then I missed whatever it was before. I didn't see the one Rock was in before the one now. So I was like, so is anyone going to tell me what the thing is? And I literally got told by the friends I went with, you don't need to know, it'll be fine. And they were right, because they literally did like a sort of rundown of the plot in the first 5 minutes. But anyway, yeah, and so I saw that the week before, and I'm like, okay, I get this because the plot is so thin, but they actually dedicate like a couple of scenes to actually do it, and they say it seriously, and so you kind of like can sort of accept it for what it is. And then the action and all the stuff that people clearly want to go and see it for, you get, and they do it better than anyone. So you can't really knock them. You know, it's never going to be Oscar worthy, but it's, you know, it does what it says on the tin, is what I always say. But in regards to compare that to Iron Man 3, that they did all of that sort of jazzy sort of stuff falling into trains and stuff exploding, and obviously Tony Stark and Iron Man flying around and with all these different suits and whatever. But the actual plot, which is what makes comic books so unbelievably brilliant, and I'm proud to say I'm a comic book fan, it was totally the story was sort of underpinned and just crushed with all the sort of tinselly bits, and you never felt emotionally attached to the story, which is what comic books are all about. And I think they're all falling into the trap of they try and make like a 200 million, like whatever it costs to make now, which is just nigh on ridiculous how much films cost to make now, like big budgeted ones. They spend like, if you add on marketing, which is probably another 100 million, which some of these films spend now, you're talking a $300 million film. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. But they know, like, if you take Superman, Man of Steel recently, that made its money back in before it even went into cinema, because of all the advanced orders, and so they'd already announced before before I even went to see it, which I think was a week after it came out in the UK. They'd already announced that they'd made enough money that they were like, yeah, we'll make another one. And I'm like, it baffles me, but the point I'm making is that like the talent is what comes through, regardless of how expensive it is, in regards to what you should be, charging people. As I said earlier, you just have to sort of stay within yourself, and as I say, it was hard. This is the first amount of work that I've got where I've actually had a say in what I've asked for. So the process of how long it takes before you get that first job for what you think you deserve takes a bit of time, because I always say the example of you have to make somebody care about what it is that you're doing and show that you're good at something first before you then get onto what you actually deserve. But usually what I find with people like in your situation and in my situation, occasionally I've took less money than I normally would. And it all depends who says that, and I think you've got to have a certain leeway, because generally, especially in this area, because as I said earlier, it's all about.
This is a bad sort of area unless you know certain people.
Yeah. You have to take that into consideration. That's why I said earlier, it's a good guideline to have a national average, but you have to also figure out where you are, because as I'm recording this, I mean, we live in a fairly nice area, but Wallsend in general is quite, sort of we were brought in a working class environment. And so somebody...
I know Wallsend because my parents lived practically near there. We used to live in Howden as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Hang on, let me just pause a sec.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah, I'll cut that bit off.
That's okay. That happened.
Yeah, like the area and that.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we just talked about.
Yeah, I've actually been ripped off before in a way. Jesmond, someone had called us up for basically a birthday party. I think it was like this last 18th or 21st, one of the two. It was like. Obviously, like I say again at the time, I can't remember how much I charge now because I've got changes so much. But it was like 120 back then, and for however many hours it was, like 4 hours. Obviously, you've got to go travel there, you spend your time there, you come back, you download, you edit, and blah blah blah, and you produce. And it was like, can you only be that like? Well, like I said. Oh, it's too much kind of thing. I'm like, oh, got another one. And then I said, well, I could like knock it down to such and such. I think it was like 60 for less hours. and so I did that. And to be honest, until like last week, because I wasn't even thinking about it, not even at the time. Got there, and it's like literally this big ass house. You walk in, you've got like a roof like twice the height of this kind of thing. You've got a room to your left which is massive. You've got a room directly ahead of you, massive kitchen, and then they've got this massive garden with a gazebo.
Yeah.
Gazebo, and they've got a band. They've got a full band playing in there. They've got
Wow.
tables. They've got champagne, and obviously like a shiz load of alcohol. And then you've got upstairs. I've never seen upstairs. I can imagine
Yeah.
that was massive as well. And
Well, I was just going to say, as soon as you said Jesmond's a really, really nice area, so that surprised me when you're saying what you're saying, but go on.
but like it was just like a case of, oh, that's too much kind of thing. I mean, these guys have money, and you know they've got money. You know they've got money. They must have spent like at least $1,000 or something on that thing. The amount of alcohol, the people, the dress, like the clothes that they wear, kind of thing, and the gazebo, and the band. The band must have been like.
Could have been a friend's band potentially, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It really bugs me when I hear stuff like that because I generally mean this. My reaction to that is it's the people, it's the individuals. It's not necessarily the area because I think that's an adequate assumption to make because a lot that happens quite frequently. Usually people have the sort of strange mindset is if they're all paying such a huge amount, let's sort of underpin the person who's probably getting paid the least amount of all that's there, and that really bugs me because what I was going to mention in regards to you were saying about quality, you know, about using expensive stuff and all that. So like my plan is to get I'm currently in my spare time writing a web series that we're looking to kickstart, and it's an interesting discussion in regards to what you're saying because I want to paraphrase it to what you just said because in that sense, what I need off people, and I may ask you to do this for photography, is to basically go around people I know in regards to who I need to. It doesn't matter if it's the people who are going to end up doing it, but basically I need a rough outline of what I need to ask for in terms of money in order to see how much I'm going to need in order to hire who I need in order to make it. Now, when I ask people to do that, the problem with the knowledge that it's done through Kickstarter, including myself, I'm going to have to ask everybody who's involved in it because it's a new thing that I'm starting up and trying to do on my own, that I can't ask them to ask for like the salary they would probably want if it was done like properly, as in like a BBC production or an ITV production where we all got paid what we deserve. There's gonna have to be some sort of leniency, but that's me asking in regards to trying to get it made, so in order the creative integrity of what I'm trying to do is maintained and we get it made. So everybody has to make some sort of compromise in that regard. So everybody is making that compromise. But I know through the person that I am, and I've said this to people many a time, I mean, look, we've just been given some money and we're all getting paid what we deserve, which is great. But what the point I'm making is that I know that I'm that person that if I ever got the money, like, you know, so like for example, we're looking for sponsorship for Geek Apocalypse because we're getting really good amount of hits. Now, if I got money in regards to that, then depending on how much money it was, I would be giving that out to co-hosts who help me out with the show, or contributors that I would be saying to someone, you know, I'd pay them, I'd try and pay them a decent like hourly rate for anything that they do, or I'd just say to them, here we got this week, here's some money, thanks for helping me out. Because everybody at this moment in time for Geek Apocalypse is giving that money, is giving that time, you know, or giving me something completely for free. Now that's just circumstance. If I was given a huge sum, or somebody, you know, or somebody sponsored us in a big way that I had a pot of cash, I'd make sure everyone got what they deserved. So it annoys me when I hear stories like you're saying, because there's clearly people who do get money who just try and swindle, paying people what they've asked for, And I've seen that happen, and it's happened to me before, where I've been swindled into in a scenario where they've said this is all we can, this is all we can do, and yet the person who's telling you is on like a 60 grand a year, a 60 grand a year job, and he's saying, well, this is all we can afford, and I'm like, I'm wondering, is that salary, the salary that you're undercutting me with is the reason that you're still on 60 grand a year job, which is most likely
on the things that sort of mean the most. Like, they'll spend like 500 quid on a wedding cake that's gonna last 3 days or something, but not like half of that on something that's gonna go into an album, maybe, or a disco
for the rest of the life. Yeah,
it's gonna last
really good point
until it goes on to the children, sort of thing. You know, it's just the skimp on the wrong things. And it drives me insane. It really does. It drives me mad.
No, I think you have a really good point. You think I don't have issue with people being materialistic if they can afford to do it. Like, if they pay people what they deserve, and then they materialistically buy something, I couldn't care less what it is that they do. But I'm so with you when in regards to, I see people do this all the time, where instead of like getting something meaningful that'll last them for a couple of years, they buy like a coat that they put in their cupboard and never wear, and it's like I can't for the me. It's just I am quite practical in that sense. If I do buy something, and I think my element of me being a geek is it comes into play, is that there's something I see, and I know it's materialistic, and I know it doesn't really mean something, but it means something to me. So I get something, but it's usually something like a T-shirt that I can wear for a long time or whatever, or a DVD of something that I really, really like. It is very rare that I very rarely buy something, because I don't really like look at an advertisement for something and then go, I really want that. Because I was arguing this the other day, like advertising, like in general, does nothing for me unless it's something specific to like a film or a game or something. Like anything else, like if I see a couch thing, maybe it's because I don't have my own house yet, but majority of the stuff, I'm like, even if I did need a couch and something, I would look at something and go, I would just go somewhere and then buy a couch. Like, I don't like look at an advert and go, that's what I'll get, because I'm practical in what I buy.
It's weird. And I have a thing for furniture. It's kind of weird. I'll walk into a furniture shop and look at all the furniture that I want.
Yeah, I mean,
like something completely technical, computers and my cameras and my phone and my music, and going to furniture.
Yeah.
I seen a chair like with New York stuff on, and I was like, I want it so badly.
Yeah,
I put it, but I want it.
Yeah, I've always wanted. It would be great one day to buy a recliner chair. Because my cousins down south have one of them couches where you can recline like either side of them out, and they're easily like the nicest couches to sit on. So what I'd love to one day to have one of them, like a Lazy Boy 3000 or whatever they call it. That would be pretty nice. So yeah, I mean, it's not like, so that's not to say that, but the thing is I know that, like, as getting back to what you said, like, I wouldn't spend, like, it's a bit like, I'll not say the name of the store, but we were in a department store a while ago with a few friends of mine, and my friend was going to buy a laptop. So he was talking to the guy, because he actually works in IT, so he was like grilling them about whatever. And we were waiting around, and we were just having a look around. And we seen this like $7,000 like 3D like cinema, like ridiculous, like 52-inch or something TV, which costs like $7,500. And I was like, and like, as much as that we were like, wow, that's pretty cool, I was like, it reaches a point where my practical person is looking at that going, you know, that's like, you know, that's literally like, to me, like, for $7,500, I'd like to buy a small cinema, like, because essentially that's what it amounts to. I'm like, $7,500. Instead of that, why not like save a tenner a month and go and watch a film, in the cinema instead of having something like that? Because it's just. It's like a TV should do what a TV should do. It's like whenever it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, I'm like, it's just aesthetics. It's like it doesn't detract from what it is that you're watching, you know? I mean, like, I'd have just as much enjoyment from watching something on a small laptop than I do watching something on a big screen. It makes, it is just, it's like a superficial thing. But then, but the point I'm making is it's like 7,500, how much I could do with
Probably
7,500.
get a better deal than that, like. As
Yeah,
well.
I could probably get,
I
I mean,
prefer watching things on my Mac than I do on my laptop because it's just a nice bigger screen and it fills more my peripheral vision sort of thing than a
oh
laptop
yeah, I
screen.
mean, yeah, there is
But
some reasons behind it, but I mean, but 52, it like, I mean, that's essentially like half a wall, like it's a half a wall of a for a
get a
TV.
projector, get a high definition projector
Yeah,
for
yeah,
less than
yeah.
half the price, paint your wall white or black, probably white, and
There's one in one of the youth centers we do. They have a projector for they have a projector for the Xbox, and it works great. It works
some
great.
of the
Really,
projectors now. I mean, I haven't seen them properly, like in person and whatnot. But
yeah.
I've heard that like some of the high definition ones now, even like some of them, I think go up to like 4K now, and the blacks that they'll produce might not be like perfectly black, but they might be like 10% off kind of thing, and the saturation and all that is just apparently fantastic for
Yeah,
a projector.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, like to go, but I was just thinking in regards to, 7,500 would probably not be far off what it would cost to make the web series, because the thing is, because I've seen web series in America be made for like $5,000, and that includes everyone being paid. It all depends. It all depends. I mean, because I've worked on productions before, it ultimately for anyone who wants to know, who may be interested to know what costs the most in regards to stuff getting made is obviously salaries depending on what people are asking for. The higher up the TV series, the more the salaries cost. But it's ultimately, in regards to a lot of things, location shooting. I mean, this is why, and obviously CGI stuff if it's like sci-fi related. They're the three main things. But mainly location shooting when you're making it, and obviously CGI afterwards are the two main sort of revenue stuff that costs so much. And if you can manage to swindle, which is I don't think, especially for a low budget web series, you can find locations fairly easily where someone will go, oh yeah, you just want to film for a day, and also you just cut down the production schedule. So instead of doing it on a basic sitcom, in the UK, like they get like a week to do something. It's the same actually in America, but obviously they do like 22 episodes a series, so that's why they do 9 months worth of stuff because they have so much money to flow in. Whereas in like say Red Dwarf does, I know Red Dwarf like they do like a week per episode and then 6 weeks of 6 weeks. Obviously, there's 6 episodes. Now, if you're doing a web series, I wrote depending on how long we're going to do the videos, if it does get made, that I've done roughly about 8 episodes. Now you do them if you do them over 10 minutes long. How you get round how much it costs is you just shorten the production schedule. So you like sort of you put together stuff with scenes like a lot of the stuff is done in an apartment. So you find an apartment to do it in, and you do all the scenes that you need to do for the apartment over a few days, and then you do all the location shoots whenever and on specific days, and so then you drastically cut down the production schedule. So because
that would probably actually help one of my mates if you were to pay for an apartment for like a day or a week or something. Would help out my mate because he can't afford it.
Well, it depends. It depends whether it's It depends whether it's suitable and whether we can include it in what I'm going to ask for on Kickstarter. But but yeah, if it helps, it helps. But
It's
that's
one of those things where if you can gain something from helping someone else, why not? Kind of thing.
that's exactly it. That's really the crux of it. If
It's just
like
one of those things, it's just
it irritates
generosity
me.
kind of thing.
It's funny because the next the next in a couple of weeks I'm going to be doing a podcast with Sophie, who we met at the think tank.
Oh, the
And
guitarist singer.
yeah, Sophie, yeah. And yeah, she's I'm doing a podcast with her a week today, and we were talking about this over Twitter, and I thought it was an interesting thing to bring up. That like, it's funny you say in regards to, you know, if there's an opportunity to help someone, help someone. But we were talking about
Hello.
all right, another thing to edit out. I forgot what I was saying now. What was I saying?
Sophie.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about on Twitter about how we were talking about managers, and I found this quite interesting, because I see a lot of managers, especially when we were going to O2 Academy, when we were doing radio stuff, and we were going to see managers talk to bands, and a lot of it, I find it fascinating that a lot of managers don't kind of know what is in the best interest of the band that they're with. You know, like they don't actually like allow them to go and do certain media stuff because they think it doesn't help them, or because it's not like sort of mainstream, so they think it's a complete waste of time. Whereas like this is why like in the format that I'm currently in, like, you know, podcasting in America in particular is huge. Like they get like millions of downloads a month. Now, if you go on a regular sort of morning slot, which I always find interesting. Like if you go on like This Morning, for example, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not showing favoritism, but if you like go on This Morning or something like that, like they won't have a huge audience, because a lot of people, obviously everyone's at work and etc. etc. Yet they get like loads of really decent guests on to talk about whatever it is. Now, that is never going to be something like in America, where they get like millions and millions a hit a month. Like so like it is more like, but yet they'll claim TV time is way more valuable than doing something purely for audio, because a lot of the time it doesn't require as much time, so they think it's more beneficial to the artist.
I think there was a band. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Beardsmiths. I think they were on This Morning.
Okay.
Basically, they're a family. It's basically the whole family, excluding the mother. All males except one female.
Okay.
Father, all sons and a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And they even chop and change instruments, so they kind of know how to play each other's instruments to a degree, anyway.
Okay.
And, they were on This Morning, but I was shocked to find that when I think my family recorded it, or someone did, and played, like they finished the gig at the Howden Club, went straight down to London or wherever it is that they have like This Morning or the breakfast show, whichever it was, and it was like blah 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 blah. Here's Beardsmith, one song, that was it.
Yeah.
There was no previous introduction or interview with Beardsmith. There was no after interview. That was it. All the way down there, one song, gone off, and you know, and it was just like, you know, this is a good band who've obviously taken a long time to get there, and you've not previously introduced them. You haven't spoke to them previously on air.
Yeah.
You just go, here's a song from them, that's it, and then nothing after that either. It was like the amount of gear they've got as well, and it's, you know, it was just like it seems a little bit disrespectful sort of thing.
Yeah, it is like
it's like what a waste of time that is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. This is what I don't understand, because like you know, I just think because it goes back to what I was saying in regards to, I mean, that's got not, it's very loosely based on what you just said, but like, you know, what I was saying earlier, I don't there's just not enough. It's like the record label. The reason the record labels are struggling is because they don't understand. They weren't on the crux of digital media. So when digital media became big and there's more people download music than ever before. So they just don't. They struggle to get bands interested in that, because if you have enough drive and ambition, if you're a musician, to get your music out there on your own, it is so much easier. You can actually. It is not as difficult now to make a living. I'm not saying it's not hard, because it still is, but
YouTube.
You've got an outlet. Yeah, you've got an outlet now. The middle guy, and this is why I never understand why bands still go down the route of having a manager, because I talked to a few bands I've talked to recently that have said, you know, it is so much easier for them to decide where they want to go, because ultimately, wherever they're going to go, the gig's going to be organised by somebody else. It's only when bands start like making their own gigs that it gets difficult to organise. But if they decide where it is they want to go,
with sort of how Denature's sort of switched slightly.
Oh yeah,
I'm not like against it sort of thing. I still like it. It's just, it sort of went from a country rock sort of feel with violin to more or less backing tracks and stuff like that. I don't know. I still like it, of course, but
my response to that is like, I mean, I think the best person to ask would be Anna. It's like if that's the focus the direction Anna wants to go down, then I fully endorse it. Because based on I know her fairly well, based on what I can see, that she's really happy with it, which is great, and if that's the route she wants to go down. And in her defense, Michael, who's her manager, who I've met several times, he gets a lot of stuff that I've seen a lot of managers dismiss. He gets, for example, that any media, like people talking about them is beneficial. So, and I think that's ultimately what a lot of bands don't understand. They kind of go, oh, well, they've only got they haven't got enough time, so we can't fit you in yet. They're ultimately managers, especially people who are trying to get more noticeable. It's like, I'm literally like, if anyone ever asks me to do anything like this, I always try and make time for it. Like, and I always say to people, oh, if I can't do it, I'll do it another time, because I understand that something like this has a knock-on effect. Like, it can only benefit me. So this is why I never understand when you get people who are legitimately giving up their time and their airtime or their website space to promote your band, and they're taking time out of their schedule to email you to say, oh, we're willing to give you free media, we're going to come down, we're going to drive down or whatever to come to your night and talk to your band, and then talk about them and say how awesome they are, and they turn around and say, well, we won't make time for you. It's like what you were saying earlier about having a band come and do one song and then pissing off. It's like it's a bit like what I was thinking of when you were saying that about like Xbox, the Xbox fiasco that happened during E3, where they realized that you've got to respect the people that are ultimately making your living, because regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a photographer like you who relies on people paying to get their photos taken, whereas me who requires, in regards to the podcast and stuff, it's all about people consistently listening to my stuff. Whether it's being a youth worker, where it's like getting people interested in whatever it is that I offer them as a youth worker. It needs to be a complete circle. You can't have half a circle and then that leads to success. You've got to complete the circuit. People who dismiss that, are really missing the point, because it's a bit like if you make a TV series and then you dismiss the people who are watching it, then you're not going to be successful, and people are not going to appreciate you not appreciating them, because, as I said, it's a bit like disposable income. If someone comes to you and is willing to give their money that they've hard earned and are giving it to you with the idea that they want you to do a good job, you have to respect that. And anyone who puts that back in their face and says that it doesn't matter is really missing the point, because like there is less and less disposable income in the world now. So if they're willing to spend their money coming to your gig, like the idea that I want to do for the podcast is to do live podcasts. I'm thinking the 50th. I'm currently on the 20th, so I think I can potentially reach 50 by the end of the year. So maybe I'll do like the sort of tentative idea that I do a Christmas special where it's live and we hire a room out and we basically just record like and get a bunch of people, like a Comic-Con type thing, and then get audience participation. Like, but if people come to that, like the first thing I'd say before we even started is like, thank you so much for you know, giving your money to come and see us talk about things and do something that I really love. You know, because I totally get that anybody who listens to my podcast or likes any of my stuff, that it's a privilege. It's not something to be taken lightly. And I love any actor or any performer who treats that seriously, because I know through the stuff that I like that if somebody appreciates what I like and listen to, then it's much more likely they're going to share what you do. So it just really matters. It's really important that you don't do that, because you're really shooting yourself in the foot, basically.
See, like on that gig, I was happy to sort of try and get some video, but it was obviously the horrible lighting. It was just like far too dark, unless you had like the top end camera to shoot in that kind of light. But for like podcasts and stuff like that, I was actually looking at doing some myself. Now that I've sort of in a way got a way of recording two angles, I can sort of do that. And your side is probably more podcast side, so you could sort of blend them in some way. And I'm looking to sort of do a couple of game reviews and stuff like that, which I'm going to try and get my mate to come along, but I need something to record the gameplay, and it's a little extra money here and then, whatnot.
Well, I mean, ultimately that what I think the reason why people are going down this road is because I generally think new media is going to become the traditional outlet for people to get their entertainment from, because I think people are generally a bit like, it's like I watched an interview. I'm a huge fan of Gaslight Anthem, who are this really good band from America. And I watched an interview on YouTube with some guy, and it was on the radio, and the guy who was interviewing him was clearly not interested in him. And it really frustrates me when I see people who are in that position, that I'm sure there'll be loads of people who see stuff like that, who would love to interview, like I would love to interview him because I'm a huge fan of his. So as I was saying earlier, it's a privilege to be in that position. So for them to like not be interested in the person that they're interviewing, because anyone that I invite on the podcast who asked to be on the podcast, I want to know what they're up to, and I want to know. I'm generally interested in people. I'm a real people person, so I love asking people how they're good at something, why they're good, what it took to get them into the position. That's all, because it's all really significant. So I think people are just like frustrated with programs like that, where they just it's just a media wheel of like, let's just get someone on, promote what it is they want, and then they leave, and you don't like learn anything from the experience. So and
get views, basically.
There's so many. They essentially don't contribute. They don't offer anything in terms of contribution. It is just a way of going, please buy my whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think there is a more interesting way of doing that. To give you the example of when Tony was on a few days, like on last Thursday, when we were doing that, like it was about an hour and 30-minute podcast, and when we were discussing that, we discussed everything, whatever it came up, because the whole point is to learn the person who's behind whatever it is that they're doing. So we talked about all sorts of different things, because Tony's really passionate about politics, and he knows a lot of stuff about that, and like, you know, and he was in all sorts of different musical stuff. And then we like said, oh, you can check out his music if you're interested, because he played a song at the end of the podcast. Now, you have to get to the end of the podcast before we even hear his music, because the whole idea is to learn what he's like and then listen to his music and then make an informed decision. And that's ultimately what's the most important. The most important thing is to have all the information available to you, and then make an informed decision. And then if you don't like that person, or you don't like their music, and you know everything that you need to know, then that's fine, because you're making a choice with all the information in hand. The problem with them stuff is they don't give any information other than it is subliminal advertising. It's basically trying to get you to think, subliminally, I'll go and buy their stuff. And and I think there's a lot of people who are just sick of seeing stuff like that now. I mean, if you look at I like some of the TV shows. I'm not saying all of it's bad, but if you go look at any chat shows in Britain, or anywhere really, the same batch of guests come. It's the same people promoting the same things. Like there's only the odd ones that actually where the sort of people put money in to get like really good guests. A lot of the time, the other ones, like, you know, there's some people I see on some chat shows where I'm like, how are they still relevant? They haven't done anything, like, for years. They were like, you know, they were an EastEnder that was on, like, a person who was in EastEnders, like, 6 years ago, is on a chat show. It's like, I'm like, and then they're like, oh, what are you up to? And I'm like, oh, nothing much. And it's like, how are they on? And it just doesn't, it doesn't get me. I struggle to understand that sometimes, but yeah. So I think, as you're saying with regards to people doing podcasting, I think because it's so much easier to get your voice out now, and there's not really any excuse for anyone who's creative to not do whatever it is they are passionate about. Because as you were saying earlier, you can get very good equipment for a relatively decent amount of money, and as I say, the great thing about that is everyone used to use the excuse of everything's too expensive. Now the only thing that is expensive is people's time, and you know, is giving your time up, and how much that costs in order to get the person you want. So that's a great thing, because you don't have to worry about the external factors, including getting people to give you permission to do something, is getting eradicated. So it's simply just, it's convincing people to do whatever it is that you're doing. So that's great, because if you're creative, you're kind of good at that. So you're not being stopped.
I mean, which is why it's that I'm using. I bought a can a few years ago, and I don't think it's in production now. I did try to record songs and stuff, but I mean, there's even gameplay in that. I want to sort of get it on YouTube, but I'm sort of starting with the Facebook group thing. Set to like private, because at first I was never comfortable in front of a camera. I was never comfortable at school going on stage and stuff like that. But a lot of people go, you never shut up. Basically, it's like, here's a subject, and like it basically, some people like, don't get him started on this subject because he won't shut up. And I'm like, you get me started on photography and someone doing something completely like dodgy, you'll not hear the end of it. But even I was annoyed with my mic when recording songs, because my voice never had that sort of warmth to it, you know. Now when I'm recording this and I've listened to myself back, it sounds so deep, but it's the same mic, and it's weird. It must just be the program or something, I don't know. But I can never get it nice and warm for a song. When I'm talking, it just seems to be bassy as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with mic.
It works. It's working. I'm using it now, and
I mean, you can get again. That's what's so brilliant. What's so brilliant about technology now is that the spectrum for the amount that you want to pay for whatever it is you're paying for, the spectrum of scale of price is like is just
free. Editing software, you've got GIMP, free.
Yeah, I
You
mean, I use,
audio
I mean,
recording.
we use Audacity
Yeah,
all the time. It's great. It's fantastic because what's great about that is you just export the file, whatever it is that you're doing, and you can export it to any other
yeah. Just
better
use it
editing
as
software.
a wave or
Use
something.
it as well, yeah,
Yeah,
or you can even just MP3 it across
yeah.
if you want. So it's great. Yeah, there's loads of like I'm trying to think of the name of it as well. Because like there's an is it Open Office? There's a software that you can use to like basically Word but for free. There's a
Right.
version of that that's sort of taken off. Like it's had like about 300,000 people have downloaded it or something, and it's kind
Right.
of regarded as the better option
All right.
because and yeah, there's loads of examples. I heard that there's not that I'm trying to degrade any ones that you pay for, but like there there is I got told by John Lenihan, who was the on the Red Dwarf podcast I did, and he was the Talkie Toaster, and he's also like a magician and a writer. And he was telling me that there's a free version of like a free alternative software to Audition, which he highly recommended to me, which I'm ashamed, which I'm gutted to say I can't remember what he said, but
What's Audition? I'm guessing it's.
Adobe Audition, which is like kind of
Oh,
a
oh,
radio
yes,
software.
yes,
Well,
yes.
we used to use it for when we were doing radio related things. We used to use that all the time.
I came across it
Uh,
a few years ago, and
it's good because the problem at the minute I have with only using Audacity is I need to find an alternative because the one downside of Audacity is it doesn't allow you to record multiple channels, so you can't put two microphones in to record
right,
at
yeah.
the same time, which is obviously an issue whenever
What
I
you
get
can do is, I'll have a look for you. Uh, I got a cheap box with the microphone, and it's got theoretically it's got like 6 inputs, but you can only record 4 channels. So either obviously 2 stereo or 4 mono, you know. But you can
yeah.
get boxes now probably under what I paid, like dead cheap kind of thing, which will take 2 mics and power you like the one you've got as well. And
Okay.
I mean, you can get Behringer mics as well for like
Okay.
30 quid, and
Uh-huh.
they're quite popular as well. I mean, obviously,
The problem that I didn't envisage when I did this because I'm using really good podcasting mics, but they're all USB versions.
oh yeah,
So the problem with that is, like, because I get what you're saying, because the way you can get round it, is you can get like dual splitters, and if you were using normal microphones, and you could dual splitter into the jack, and then you can have 2 microphones on the same channel, and then it would still pick up the separate waves on the same wave, but it would be you would be picking up both microphones.
yeah.
So you can
If it
do it that
wasn't
way.
powered. So
Yeah.
mine's
but the problem
mine.
is-
You've was going to use phantom power.
Yeah, but the problem is with mine is if I can my computer can handle putting two microphones in 2 USB ports, but then because they're in 2 separate ports, they're in 2 separate channels, and it's just impossible in Audacity to have them both working at the same time because it only has one input in channel in Audacity, so you kind of tell it to record both. So it's just a case of either forking up the money to get Adobe Audition or finding an alternative, because that was what we used for multi-channel stuff when we did it. But we ran out of copies. You get 3 copies with Audition, and we used them all. And anyway, that was at the place that I worked, so that I've never actually owned an Audition copy. So. And it's quite expensive. It's quite expensive, so
I
it
was
would be
going to
quite.
say, I have used Audacity to record multiple channels, but I think I know why, because everything went into the box, and then the box plugged in via USB.
Yeah, you
which
have
was
to have.
stereo.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
you
I think I got it.
Yeah, that's ultimately the only way around it, is to say, yeah, you need to have a box that has. So unless there's some sort of box which I wouldn't know, but there might be a box where you can plug USBs in, and then you can use it as
probably is. Someone's probably.
I imagine there would be, because I mean USB microphones. I mean the ones that we use for the podcasting, they're brilliant, and I use them to record all sorts of stuff. I mean, I play music as well, and I've recorded a lot of my stuff on the microphones we use for podcasting because they're brilliant because they're multi-use, so you can use them for all sorts of different things. And they're relatively cheap. I mean, again, this isn't me plugging anyone, but the place we got them at Amazon, and Amazon are great in regards because we use Blue Yeti microphones.
I was going to.
And they're brilliant. And they're absolutely brilliant. They're the best things I've ever bought. And as I say, Amazon occasionally do deals, like they do deals on the prices. Yeah. And as I say,
Amazon more than eBay because I trust Amazon more.
Yeah. Well, that's the downside of all stuff like eBay is you're not sure.
Yeah.
You're not sure whether they're legitimate or not. I mean, I love the story of. I mean, there's loads of stories like this, but I love the story of. Actually, no, the better story. I was going to say about one where someone said, "Oh, you can get a PlayStation." I think it was a PlayStation 2 or something years and years ago. And someone went, "Oh, PlayStation 2, brand new in the box," and because they hadn't said it, they managed to get away with not refunding the money because they had written in the small print that it was just the manual, and someone had paid like £100 or something to take it off them and basically sent the manual. But there was a brilliant story I remember off eBay, which is a positive aspect of it. But I remember getting told this story and I was like, oh, I want to. Well, there's no ending to the story. This isn't fun. But that's what I was saying to the people that told me. But it's still fun just saying what happened. But because apparently somebody bought an eBay a few years ago, I think it was another PlayStation or some sort of console. I think maybe a Nintendo, like a Nintendo Wii potentially. And they bought it off somebody. It arrived. They took the Wii out of the box, and then they realised that what they'd done is someone had put there was a raised bit on the bottom of the box, and it was like an extra feature under the box, it separated it with a bit of cardboard. Right. So there was clearly something underneath it, and they were like, "That's weird," and it was like a little big there was a little sort of curve in it, and they were like, "It looks like there's something underneath that." So the guy got a pocket knife or something and thingied it out, took the cardboard out of it, and inside was all these plastic bags full of euro dollars, full the whole bottom of the box was covered in euros. So the guy took it out, and it was I don't know whether it was labelled or he counted it up, but there was $20,000 in euros, and he was like, what? And he was like, what do I do? And he tried to contact the guy, and the guy wouldn't answer. And apparently, I'm not sure if this part's true because all these stuff gets fabricated, but apparently I remember this being in the news at the time, so I know that this happened. I don't know whether somebody who told me afterwards fabricated the story, which usually is what happens. But I do know that apparently, because I remember I did a joke about this when I did stand-up comedy. I thought it was a fascinating story because apparently so he did the honourable moral thing as he rang the police. And so he was like, well, what do I do? This guy's just sent me $20,000. He's not answering me. Do I give it back? Do I give it to you and you sort it out? And they were like, well, what can we do? Whoever sent it to you, we can't, it's very hard to figure out who this person is other than going through eBay, and they might not even know who he is because it could have just been an account with no anything in and he just sent you the money. What the police, I think, again, I'm not sure if this is true, but from what I remember, people telling me that the police kind of just said, well, it seems to me that maybe this person had the money illegally and he was trying to get rid of it, whatever way he could, or he forgot that it was in there, which I find amusing that you just forget $20,000 is in a box and it's someone you don't know. That amused me, that idea. But what was great was, so the police said it was basically like finding a wallet. If you can't find the person whose wallet it is after 30 days, or after 30 days of not or like you find something and nobody declares that it's theirs after 30
Yeah.
days, it legally becomes yours. So he said, well, as far as we're concerned, we can't deal with it. It's not you've not broke the law by you've received this money. So they were like, you basically have to wait 30 days for him to get back to you, and if you don't, the money's yours. But what amused me, and I said this when I did my stand-up comedy, was what I love the idea of his friends, their friends come round to his house like a day after he's been told that, and he's just barricaded himself in, and he's bought like a safe, and he's put all the money in the safe, and he's like got a shotgun, and he's like, I've got 30 days still in. And it was like, I just amused myself with the idea, because like I was saying to my friends, like if someone gives you 20 grand. And it to me, if I got that, the first thing I would thought of, like, it's a drug deal, like, or somebody like really, like 20 grand's a lot of money, like, so I was like thinking it's like clearly something like really, really bad. So the idea of like, I would be generally like crapping myself at the idea of, because if you think about it, if someone sent you that and you don't know where it's coming from, you would be like, oh, well, like for that 30, well, like for any period of time for that money, you'd be like, that person knows where I am, knows where he sent it because it's on the box of the address. So the guy knows where I live, and and he might go like one day twig and go, Dave, what happened to that, like, 20,000 euro? And then he was like, oh, crap, I sent it with the way. And I was like, right, oh, we're off to England. And I was like,
I paid like 120 quid for $20,000, so, you know.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, yeah, imagine that though, just like one day,
package.
like, I would be just like petrified that like one day, like a limousine comes up with all these people with Uzis and like, I paid 20 grand. And it's just like, I thought that was hilarious, but like, yeah, I love the idea as well that like he spends like some of the money buying a safe, so like he's like, oh, you can't take me alive. So that amused me, yeah. But right, yeah, I was just gonna say I've got like a few minutes left, so
yeah, I was just gonna say,
is there anything you want to?
I was just gonna basically go say, what would the plan of action be for the say the gigs? Well, whether it is the Lynn School or the Howden Club, because I'm probably gonna.
Well, what is Lynn School? I've been to Lynn School obviously to see Anna, but I've never actually seen the stage. I have seen pictures of the stage and stuff. Like, I mean, because I like the idea. As I say, I like the. It all depends. What we need to generally sit down and discuss with privately is like how many, based on the amount of attendance we can get, like how big the venue is compared to how many bands we can afford to have on. So that's kind of what we need to decide. So because the problem, the thing is, when you were saying about Howden Club about having the acoustics with the acoustic room with the main room is like, obviously that like, if they like just throw that room in for free, then that would be good. But then there's then more people that needs to be considered if we get like acoustic people there. So, you know, you've got to like we've got to like plan in accordance with what amount. It's a bit like we need to figure out what budget we're gonna get and then figure out how many people we can include in it. So that's
I'm good with Excel spreadsheets. So I keep putting something together. I've got one for the Lynn School. I've got one sort of for the Howden Club.
Because I mean, do you know the logistics of how much, like how big these are, like how
the Howden Club can probably hold a good 700, I think.
Really?
Something like that, 500.
Just the stage.
I will have to ask, but once I've got.
No, my dad said to me he's not been in it, but he was like a few hundred at least. Yeah. So,
but basically, I mean, I just need some sort of road to sort of start going down, you know.
I think the best starting point is to figure out is to ask both of them what they're going to charge per room and you know, and figure out that, and then that's a good starting point to figure out how much we're, you know, how much they can hold, because then you can work out minus what they want for room hire, if they want any room hire at all, minus that, like how much we've got
I
to
mean,
play.
you're getting something. I mean, nothing happens on a Wednesday and Thursday. Like literally
Well,
nothing.
that's why I think if you didn't, that's why I said earlier, right at the beginning of talking about this, is I think, as you quite rightly said, I don't think they've got anything to lose by doing that. I mean, there's very few people that I like you know, as I said, like if they've got a room that's empty and we're willing to fill it, and potentially with the scale of what we're talking about, they would. I'm pretty sure. Because Howdens are really, you know, that they're not like struggling for money. That I think they would be happy. I think it would probably be realistic for them to say, especially if we decide to ticket the event, which is not that expensive to do, and I think it would be sensible for us to do it because we can kind of figure out. It's good for security reasons. It's good for figuring out. It's good for judging how many we're going to get based on we can. Both have like say for example what we did with the ones we did is you got like a guy I did it with got half the tickets, I got half the tickets, and if I was ever with anyone I was like, oh, I'm trying to sell these tickets for such and such, and they would give me the money, and then I'd say, and then we'd know by how many tickets we got rid of as how many people, because even if they buy the tickets and then they decide they can't make it, they've already bought the tickets, which I know is not ideal for them. But the thing is if they've already bought the tickets, like most likely they're going to turn up. So there's so if we ticket it and we say 300 is Linskill or whatever, and then we come to them a week before the gig because they won't want the room hire until probably the night of the gig if they're going to ask for anything at all.
I know it costs about 150. You could say 300 for the room and the equipment, because I think it's like 150 for 8 hours.
Okay.
Which we might need a few more hours. So.
Well, it all depends. Because as I was saying to you as well, it all depends whether you want to do, as you were saying, if you wanted to do it. I think it's more realistic to do it like a night, like as in like a 7 till 11 thing, and then it would literally just be it would probably be about 6. We'd probably need roughly about, if you take into account the two, probably would be 8 hours. 8 hours, because if it's 4 hours, you'd have to set up sound check and everything,
light and stuff like that.
So obviously, there's buying the equipment as well, and as you were saying. So
I've got my own PA if that's something. The only thing I don't have is something for a drum kit. That's the only thing I don't have. I've got a drum kit, obviously. That was my kit on the stage. I've got a guitar. I've got guitar amps.
Well, I mean, most of them will be bringing. It depends what bands most likely, other than as you say, maybe not the drummer. Maybe the only people who won't be bringing stuff, maybe drummers. The rest of them will be bringing their own stuff. So it's not that. So it would be essentially would be paying for the sound system. So for the sound system, and if we potentially need like an engineer to be there. So I'd say figure out what Howden Club would ask for. Same goes for Linskill as a second alternative. Find out how much they can hold, and then that'll sort of then we can figure out the logistics of it, and also include in when you ask them what roughly, because I'd figure out what dates you roughly are thinking of doing it, and then ask them whether they can do it, and then that can also determine a date. So then from my perspective, I can let the bands know roughly when we're wanting to do it.
Yeah, that was one of the things, like date and how many. Because the bands wanted to know what date it was, but we didn't have a date because we didn't have the bands, and it was catch-22, and it was a nice
well, that's what I'm saying. So the good thing about that line of thinking is that if you get that and figure out when they're free, then it sort of gets the ball rolling on both sides. So I think that's the sort of step one. And then once that's figured out, all that you need to do then is, as I say, realistically figure out how much we're going to be asking for, comparing to how much we roughly are expecting to turn up.
Well,
and then
what I'll do is I'll do me your spreadsheet thing again, see how much I can pay. I'll probably do a minimum amount and then see how much I can push it.
Okay.
And I'll do it that way.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, I think a realistic target would be I mean, I usually say about half of whatever the attendance is, and as just a rough guide. And then because if you budget it based on that, then whatever you get after is a bonus. So then you can kind of go, oh well, we got actually 30 more, so let's figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the money. Because that's the one problem with sort of budgeting with it, is that it's all bricated on how many people come to the gig. So there may be an element of we may plan it now, and then after, if we do ticket it and then do some pre-sales, and then we figure out that how many pre-sales we might then go, well actually we've got more, we've got less than we thought, and so we need to adapt it based on that. So yeah, but as I say, just do that, and then as I say, we can figure out. And yeah, you just send me whatever you want, and then we'll go from there.
I've got your email, so I can send you
Whatever you want,
and stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah, cool.
And this will probably be going up on the 8 magazine group for the others to hopefully look at.
Okay. When you say others, who are these other people?
So far in the group, I'll probably add you as well if I can get you on Facebook.
Okay.
Is
Steven Craig Hasselwood, so you should be able to find me on there. I'm Steven Craig Hasselwood on Facebook.
So there's one of my mates that lives up the street. There's one of my other mates, John. So you've got John, Johnny, and Chris Mackey.
Okay.
So that's it at the minute. So, I've got Johnny doing sort of review stuff. John's doing sort of site stuff, and Mackie is doing review / editing / photos.
Nice.
Anyway. So,
okay.
And then obviously I hope to get sort of podcasty video things up at some point as well, and game reviews and whatnot.
Cool.
So that's one thing I hope to do at some point.
Well, I was going to say, are you going to use this for YouTube or anything? Because if you want, I'm happy to put it on our channel.
Right.
You want me to do that?
I can put it on your channel. I'll send a copy of
it. You can send me.
Maybe 720 or something like that. But at the minute, I'll put it on.
What did you just say there before? You're just going to send as well?
I could send you the video, unless you just want to like share it.
All right.
Or,
just send me the. If you can send me the full video, I don't know how big file size it'll be, but yeah.
Sure. I'll find out though.
Quite a lot.
It'll be going on the group, not the Facebook page. It'll be going on the closed group.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that because it's always good for me to it's always good for, like, as I said earlier about getting people interviewing me, like, because it's all about promoting my stuff. So yeah, and obviously if I put it on the channel, they can click on your stuff as well. So it's all good. So yes,
photography. It's one thing that it has been mentioned, but still, photography.
Yeah, well, I can link it and stuff and whatnot. So it's all, and I'll put it in the the title and stuff. So it'll all be good. No, that'll just be good. As I say, yeah, it'll be good because it's just something different. So yeah, I can use it. I can potentially use it. But no, that's cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. I need to go and get ready for work and stuff. So
not a problem.
Cool. Yeah. So just if you wanna, I suppose the thing to say is just send me some stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever you got a chance. I mean, I may be able to. I mean, what's your sort of, what is your sort of way of you gonna ask them? I mean, I know do you go to Linskill? Or are you just gonna
I do the odd time, like if I did a little shoot with Anna.
Yeah.
While she was teaching, but I don't really go to.
She who not being an idea asking her. Because she might know how much Linskill ask for.
Yeah, it's 150 for 8 hours. I do have a list somewhere.
Is that for everything or just for the?
Just for the whole.
Oh, that's actually not that bad then. That's pretty good for 8 hours.
I'm gonna see if Anna can, like, as a band, do something maybe as well. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. So okay. Well, if you've got that. And then and then if you can figure out how much it can hold, and then do the same for Howden, and then you've got some sort of comparison. But what I was going to say, the reason I asked that is because in terms of Howden, I may be able to get my dad to get an answer.
Alright.
So I could potentially say to him, can you ask someone when you go? And I'm seeing him on Wednesday, so I can ask if he'll ask on our behalf and see if he'll get back to me. Because I just think if you were talking, I think you were saying to me about a letter. I mean, if they've got an email address, like you may potentially get an answer that way. But I think it's just the best way of doing it is to get someone to go in and just ask, because they'll clearly give you an answer then, as opposed to waiting.
Apparently, it was just like all their like queries are letter based or something. So otherwise, I would literally just say, look, this. Because I'm a talkative person, not a writing person. I can't stand it.
Yeah, well, as I say, I think with my dad being a member as well, I'm sure he'll know who to ask. So
most of my family's members as well, including myself.
Oh, that's cool.
So, but
as I say, I've never been in.
It is coming from like a young lad in there, like all whatever.
Yeah.
So it's coming from someone. I want to do this. And yeah, right. That's not going to work.
Not cool.
Do get let down on, but you know that's life.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I go to a pub with my dad, who's a member, and they're all, they're sort of all older, and we go play snooker and stuff. And when we first went, it was a bit like, whoa, there's a young person in the bar, and then now I'm like accepted easily, because my dad, it's a pub near where I live in Wallsend, and it was open in like 1960s, and my dad's been a member for like nearly 50 years, like since he was 18. So, so he was actually a member when it opened. So like when anyone goes, oh, there's a kid in here, what's going on? Like, well, I'm not a kid anymore, but they're still, like, to them I'm a kid. And like my dad just points out that like to the committee, the chairman of the club, like he's known the chairman of the club longer than some of these people who are saying, oh, there's a kid in here. So it's like I kind of get a pass because like my dad's been a member forever, so they're like kind of like, yeah, he's allowed in. Not that I wouldn't be.
Get as much information as I can and whatnot.
Yeah, cool. Because that would help me in regards to what we need to do. So that sounds great.
Okay.
Cool, right, nice talking to you, and
I'll let you get on with work and stuff.
Yeah, no worries, yeah. Cool. So, right, nice talking to you, and I'll speak to you soon.
You too, Steve.
Take
care
now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.